Prepper Cat here. Man, I'm in a much better mood than I was. I finally got that chore of a video done. I enjoyed doing it, but it was a chore not because it was difficult to make, but because of my problems with my devices. Now, again, it's going to be a short video, particularly because I don't want to spend hours and hours uploading this. I want it to take a couple of minutes, so it's only going to be a couple of minutes. Um, the point of this video is I want to know what you think are plausible disasters. What do you think will happen? What are you preparing for? Are you preparing for absolutely anything, just whatever comes down the pike? Or are you preparing for a specific event or multiple specific possible events? I'm curious, what do you think is possible, or what do you think is going to happen? I have a list of 5 things. Is five, right? I'm not losing my mind. Okay, yeah, that's 5 things. Apologies. I have a list of 5 things that I think is plausible that could happen in my lifetime. Um, and it's in no particular order. I'm just gonna read from top to bottom, and they do have timelines. Um, not from however many years, but when they may start. This is based off of no factual evidence. I just figured the timelines go with each plausible SHTF event, based off of what I already know in today's world. I'm sorry, that is not focusing. At least let it focus. I know it's a boring picture, but let it focus and stay that way. Anyways, keep this short. Uh, Number one, nuclear war over resources. Um, Now it could be just a nuclear war, or it could be just a resource war without nukes. Um, but the fact is that resources, that's what's going to keep this planet going. And if we can't figure out how to work together over resources to get resources from other planets or asteroids that just so happen to pass by our little old solar system, we're going to run out of resources fairly soon. The timeline I have on that is 2040. That does sound kind of like a ways away, but in the same sense, it's not. I believe we could have a resource war um, at that point or thereafter. But then again, we don't really know as civilians how much resources we actually have. And they may say we have a certain amount, but that could be way more than the truth or way less. We don't know. So like I said, these guesses are just that. They are just guesses on the timelines. With no factual evidence. It's just I believe personally we could have a resource war by 2040 or thereafter. An economic collapse, particularly for the USA. But if the USA goes into an economic collapse, that will affect the entire world because there are very, very many countries that use the dollar, um, or at least depend on it in some fashion. And the timeline I put on that is 2030. I believe we could have one in America by 2030. If that doesn't happen, then resource war possibly. Um, I don't, I don't know if I see our economy going for another 10 years. But it just might. They might figure out a way to kick the can for 10 years more, 20 years more even. I don't know how, but they might figure it out. Climate change. Now, I have been for the longest time doubting that, but after this year, I know I have my heater on. And it is chilly out here, but we barely saw any days below 32 degrees, and that was all winter, and we're in January. We're usually seeing well below zero where I'm at. And so for it to not go below 32 more than twice by January in winter, that's mind-boggling. That's telling me something's going on. I'm not saying it's warming up. I figured out why we didn't get a winter. That's because the I believe they call it a solar vortex stayed in the northern hemisphere instead of coming down south of where it usually does for us having winter. And since I'm still fairly young, I've never seen this happen before, and I don't know exactly how that's going to affect next year for crops. I mean, for all I know, because it never came down south, maybe it's so cold up there it'll keep next year nice and cool and pleasant. Uh, and by next year, I mean 2020 through until 2020's winter or 2021's winter. Um, but it might not do that. It might do the opposite. I'm just a wait and see for that one for me. Um, and for a small, well, one small event, the fourth one, a natural disaster. For me, that could mean tornadoes. We don't get earthquakes here. I felt a tremor once, but that was weird. But yeah, that mainly means tornadoes, snowstorms, and rainstorms. Um, and usually rainstorms don't do all that much. Break a few windows maybe, but whoop-de-woo. But an actual disaster would be a tornado or a couple of tornadoes. I've seen one recently, and it stacked a few cars right on top of each other like Legos. And that was right next to where I live, so it was kind of a scary thing. And I was outside, and I couldn't see it. I was outside just walking, and I heard it, but I didn't see it. And I'm like, oh well. But, it's this place, whatever. Moving on, number 5, and the final one, a civil war. I could see that. Honestly, I could see that happening at any time at this point. Right now, currently, it is January 5th, later afternoon, so it won't be long before it's January 6th, is what I'm saying. A few more hours and whoop-de-woo, January 6th. Problem with that is, one, I'm relying on other people to do certain things for me because I don't have the resources to do it. I'm not at leisure to tell you what those things are because that's of a nature of OPSEC, but, hell, I don't know. Anyways, I didn't have the resources to do something. Anyways, 2020, there's going to be a peaceful protest. I mean, that's their honest goal, is a peaceful protest. Problem is, there are people with guns. And I am for guns. I am very pro-gun. I'm not saying it's dangerous that they're bringing guns. It's dangerous because the people that they're protesting are trying to take their guns away in Virginia, which consists of all semi-automatic weapons. All semi-automatic. What do they call them? Assault rifles. That's the words they used. All semi-automatic rifles, basically. You can only have bolt-action rifles, and you can have a pistol. Stupid. What's the other thing? Oh, martial arts. Banning martial arts. Basically, if you practice Taekwondo or Kung Fu or anything else, you can get arrested. And if you teach it, you're a class 5 felon for teaching self-defense. Because that makes freaking sense. So, with all that crap going on, January 20th, and it's almost January 6th, honestly, that event could start a civil war in Virginia, and if it starts there, the 20th, I guarantee you it'll spread. In which case, we're all kind of fucked. SOL. Shit out of luck. Apologize for cussing. Like I said, I try not to, but I think that's just... Excuse me. I think that's just about it for this video. Maybe, possibly. Drop the phone. Yeah, that's it for now. So, let's start networking, people. And remember, boys, just smile and wave. Smile and wave.